Welcome to Earth's Mightiest Weirdos. My name is Bryan. I have several of the weirdos joining me. First, we have Marc Valentine. How you doing tonight, Marc?
Feeling pretty good.
Good. Duane, how are you?
Doing great.
And Markie Mark, how are you doing tonight?
I am living the dream.
As you have heard, Rob is not joining us tonight. Rob leads a much busier life than the rest of the four of us. Let's just put it that way. But we all just got out of the movie theater on opening night of seeing Black Widow, and we are jazzed, and we want to talk Black Widow. We want to just get this out so you guys can hear us. So if you're joining us on Tuesday night, leave a comment. Let us know you're watching. Thank you for watching, but we wanted to get this out on our podcast for everybody so they can hear our thoughts on Black Widow and let us know what your thoughts are as well. So let's get into it, guys. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. If you have not seen Black Widow, pause this podcast, go to Disney Plus, purchase Premiere Access, go to your local movie theater. Did I say spoiler alert?
Yeah.
All right. So we got a Shang-Chi trailer ahead of time. Just everybody wanted a Spider-Man trailer. We didn't get it. But we got a Shang-Chi trailer, the one we've already seen. Let's get into the good stuff. We open up Black Widow in Ohio, 1995. Young Natasha has blue hair. You can see that red coming out in the middle. And then young Yelena. Very Americanized family. This was not what I was anticipating. Did this catch anybody else off guard a little bit?
I liked the style of that. I liked the way that they started with them as a sleeper cell. And I thought that was really creative to see how far her roots go. That she was an operative as a little kid, as a preteen.
I definitely got a vibe of the Americans, the FX show. Definitely, I think they took some inspiration from that. And I'm like, oh, man. So I thought that was a good vibe.
David Harbour's haircut was just straight out of Hawkins, Indiana, too. Like it was just too darn perfect. But that scene with the Piper airplane, just really, really cool action. Rachel Weisz Melina getting shot and young Natasha having to fly an airplane at that age.
I'm so glad we didn't have Nick Fury or Coulson come out of the car. I'm glad they didn't try to force that in there.
I'd have been okay with it.
And then all of a sudden, the Stranger Things Russia connection just made so much more sense to me with David Harbour.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been okay if it would have been Coulson but they drop in later in the film too that they knew all along that S.H.I.E.L.D. was Hydra. So who were they really working for? Like, I mean, to then get Coulson or Fury, I don't know. I mean, it was good to get the Hydra reference later in the movie, but no, it was great. But Duane, any of this opening scene, how did this? I mean, it was such a great opening scene.
It was so good. I agree. I liked how it was it's the all-American family, playing on the playground. Yelena falls and hurts her knee, and it just the whole thing played out. And then we're waiting on Dad for dinner, and then things escalate, shall we say.
I think this emotionally set the tone too for that family dynamic for the movie. That while all four of them are playing a role and they're deep undercover, that throughout the course of the movie, Yelena really looks at this time as being instrumental. Like she calls it the only happy time in her life. Yep. And I feel like it took a while for her to say it too, but this was very real for Natasha. That this moment, them around the dinner table, the backyard, looking at the fireflies, all of that meant something to them. And it was a time in their lives that they really cherished, that although they were undercover, that it was real for them. And it was great to see Red Guardian kind of say that too, that they all had an emotional connection to this opening scene, that it developed the family dynamic for them. And that was kind of fun. I want to ask you guys though, too, there was a line in that where Natasha talks about her two families. That line kind of gets undone a little bit in Endgame, does it not? That she doesn't really mention this family and kind of says that the Avengers were her only family. Like, that didn't make sense to me. I felt like, where did they go?
I've been wondering this for 2 straight years now of how that was going to play out. And I mean, it played out well enough for me. I mean, they can always go back and say, like, this wasn't even her real family. Like, when the movie started, I genuinely still believed Melina and Alexei Shostakov to have been her parents. And you'd never really get that confirmed until later in the movie that they're not her official parents. I was wondering what kind of connection they were going to try to make as to who Natasha's real mom was, and going with unknown. That was, I'm glad they did that. I'm glad they Mark talked about forcing. Yeah.
They were just filthy junk traders, man.
Junk traders. I knew that's where we were headed. But I mean, I can live with it, because ever since I found out the family dynamic for Black Widow, in July of 2019 at Comic-Con, when they announced this movie, I've been okay with it. How were they going to explain away this other family? Where was Yelena? Because we knew Yelena was going to have a future in the MCU. Where was she during Endgame? Like, all that kind of stuff. I think they did well enough that they could. I do think this movie belongs. But right before we got on here, Mark Valentine, I know your biggest quote unquote hang up with this film is just where it came out.
Yeah, I mean, we were going to save. I was hoping to save this till the end, but it's fine to say it right now. I'm very high on the movie overall, but I really just wish that we had gotten this film, right after Civil War, or somewhere close to that. I feel like Kevin Feige probably looked at, he probably looked at Scarlett Jo and said, "Hey, like, we're thankful for all that you've done for the MCU. Your character deserved her own feature-length film. We're really sorry that we're getting around to it now." But I felt like the film was really just shoehorned into the timeline, and I liked it. But it'll be a fun ad. Like, this will be something fun when I'm watching these chronologically, to go back to throw this film in right after Captain America: Civil War. It worked on a lot of levels. It was a lot of fun for me, but it was, if I have to lovingly jab at the film a little bit, it should be Black Widow: Too Little Too Late. Sorry. Too little too late.
I'm usually not one for the chronological watch. This one, I think I'm with you. I think, especially as we grow out the MCU, they really need to think about, where is everybody? Why is this solo superhero doing this all on their own when Taskmaster seems to be such a formidable villain? They explain this one really, really well, because how did they refer to Ant-Man, the miniature-sized convict, or whatever they referred to him as in that film? And this is the danger of doing a spoiler review, having seen the movie only one time. I can't get all the lines right, but having most of those people in jail, and then Steve Rogers on the run, that's how Natasha is doing this all on her own. That worked really, really well for me. So I'm with you. I think it's going to be really fun to play it right after Civil War. I mean, I knew the vest was coming, and we're going to talk about that near the end as well. Those connections to the greater MCU, did it take a little bit away from the movie, knowing Natasha was already dead because of the events of Avengers Endgame? Yeah. And I've been saying that for 2 years now it's my least anticipated film, just because it's not advancing the story. Now, the post-credit scene gets me excited a lot more about that kind of stuff. But let's
save that. Yeah, because I have some really great stuff that I want to talk about, that, and that after the credits sequence. All of us collectively sitting in the theater. It was a pretty nice packed house, and I want to talk about the audience reaction to that end credit sequence. The thing I want to ask you, and I'm so sorry to do this to you guys, because I know that for me it always comes back to Star Wars. A movie that I love, which is Solo. So many people were critical of Solo, saying, while it was enjoyable, the stakes of Solo were not high. We know that he's going to get out. We know what his trajectory is. So we know he's going to get free of them all. We know that he's going to live. We know that Lando's going to live, because we know their story is already written in the stars, pun intended. The movie just really didn't excite you. It was cool to world build and backfill some of the story in, but there were no stakes. Did you feel like that was the same kind of thing with this? It was great to world build. It was great to get some backstory, but there were so many times, guys, that I just did not feel any stakes in this movie. Even the greater plot with like sleeper cells and Black Widows all over the world, I kind of eye rolled a bit and was like, we know this isn't going to happen, because I know what comes after it. It's just, let's just Let's foil the bad guy, blow this place up, and let's get that cool ass free falling scene.
I didn't particularly. I think they owned it, that they know they can't have like her hanging about to fall or some kind of pending death. I never got that feeling of that, because we already know how this plays out. She makes it. The Splinter Cells, yeah, that was my first thing of, we're going to bring up this whole thing. It would have been really cool had we had this storyline sooner, so that maybe the Black Widow Splinter Cells could have gone somewhere. Who knows? That could have been a really cool TV show. But I think they knew.
Happen though. Like, it could still happen.
That's true. I think they knew not to put Natasha in a situation where they're going to try to make us believe for a second that she could die. I never got that feeling, but the Splinter Cell one, I definitely am with you on that page.
Mark, were you disappointed that Christian Grey was not in the Red Room?
I was waiting for the Mark Marvel Red Room to finally make its MCU debut. So one day we'll get that.
I felt like we should have at least gotten in line. Let me show you my Red Room at one point. I felt like just a missed opportunity. As Bryan shakes his head, my apologies.
Duane, how about you? Did you feel the stakes were lessened?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit. Obviously, we knew what Natasha, what her end was. I want to go back for a second. Like Mark said, the one thing that did jump out at me, I didn't mind it going back and kind of filling in all the blanks, and I enjoyed getting the information about her family and Yelena and all that. That was good for me. I did, however, while I was sitting right in the theater, have the thought, why didn't we see Yelena in Endgame? And so that did come to mind. You know what I mean? So in that sense, I can agree. But, I did enjoy getting all those kind of those little holes filled in. So, while I wasn't worried that she was going to die, I still thought there was intrigue. I still thought there was plenty of action.
Oh, 100. You're 100% right. Because there were a lot of things that Bryan and I were talking about before you even logged into the chat room. I was very happy that we got the backstory finally of Budapest. That we finally found out
important.
That what was so horrible in Budapest that they've now alluded to in 3 or 4 movies in the backstory for both Clint and for Natasha. We finally see what the dirty deed was in Budapest that was done all for the mission and the regret that she carried and harbored even into this film. So you're right. Like I don't want people to misconstrue and say like Mark didn't like the movie. I really liked the movie. There were 2 things that I just felt about the movie. One is I thought this movie probably and Feige is a master at this kind of thing. He's usually very good with thinking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. I don't know why this one was just a one-off, and it was just kind of a very weird placement that the first time they ever thought to really like create a Black Widow standalone film was after she had died. It doesn't make any sense for who Kevin Feige is as the master strategist for the MCU. I felt like it should have come earlier.
First and foremost, it's pronounced Budapest.
Budapest.
So what I would say to that is going back on what Duane said of Yelena not showing up in Avengers Endgame. I think the only thing that would have made that a plot hole would have been if Natasha had introduced her to the Avengers. Like, as far as the Avengers are concerned, she doesn't exist.
Right.
She doesn't, like, there's not a Sorceress Supreme anywhere around that's going to open up a portal to let her in. So I'm good with that. I'm also very much of the belief that she was snapped away, and that also explains how they never would have met. So I'm completely fine with how all of that played out.
On a comical side, Duane, just another very plausible thing for you to think of, and it's a joke, but it's very plausible that she was just working on her superhero landing, and she was trying to perfect it before really injecting herself into the greater MCU.
And the hair flip too, right?
Because we can see in the film, she clearly she does not have that down, and there's a little bit of disdain for the superhero landing, but we see her give it a shot. It really wasn't up to par when compared with her sister or just the Avengers. So think of it that way, man. the reason she wasn't around, she didn't want to embarrass herself during the final fight up at the Avengers compound. And so she said, listen, I'm going to tap out. I know that we have enough heroes here. I'm going to work on this. I'll be back in a few years.
Just got to work on sticking the landing.
Really,
So.
it's important.
That was laugh out loud funny, that scene in the gas station, and then her trying it again later in the movie. I really liked it. Go ahead.
I think we're all forgetting that hero landing is not that hard. I think everybody at home right now listening would love to have a video of the four of us trying it. I think she did pretty good when she did it.
Listen, Ryan Reynolds says it's hard on the knees. I can't do it. I'm older. It's hard on the knees. Duane and I would have a real tough time with that landing now.
Maybe this could be like a bonus feature for your patrons.
We could. Duane, what do you think about it? Sacrifice our bodies for the Patreons and do the superhero landing? I'm
gonna have to work on it for sure.
We can do it. I love that idea, Mark. I don't hate it.
And then we'll get back into talking about the film, but going back on your original question, Mark, of did it lessen the stakes? For me, it didn't, because I'm looking still to the future of Yelena. I really hope that Alexei Shostakov, Red Guardian, or Crimson Dynamo goes up again later in the MCU. So for me, it was still the intrigue of those three characters specifically. I knew Dreykov was going to meet his end. The actress who plays Taskmaster, Olga, I can't remember her last name. She was actually the runner-up to be Wonder Woman. She was beat out by Gal Gadot. So she's a very capable actress when it comes to action scenes and stuff like that. So I mean, I hope we kind of there's you don't know what the future holds. So for me, the intrigue was still there, even with the title character's future already having been decided.
So 30,000 foot view, Bryan, to spin off of that and to kind of ask another question. I saw this movie very much as the passing of a baton from Black Widow as Natasha Romanoff to another Black Widow. Did that movie successfully accomplish that for you in your heart and mind? Do we leave this, and are you as excited for our second Black Widow as you are for Scarlett Johansson? And really quickly, for me, yes, that's what this movie did best.
I love Yelena Belova. I love the character of Yelena. I love Florence Pugh. I'm super, super excited about it.
I love her vest.
I love that too. I'll say this real quick. As soon as the movie ended, my 18-year-old daughter, that was her take. She felt like Yelena stole the show. She felt like she was in her opinion, she was the best part of the movie.
She was.
Marky Mark, are you excited about the future of the character of Black Widow?
I was until I know we're going to get to it. That end credit scene kind of watered it down a little bit for me. So
let's hold on to it then. Because
what I'll simply say is I love her. She is a great actress. Midsommar and Little Women, she knows how to act. And in this movie, she showed she can carry a big movie. Mm-hmm. I also don't think in any of those other movies she showed she could be funny. And
really funny.
She definitely was, and she doesn't even have to. She could be more like loud comedic, with the poser stuff. That was funny. But then even at the dining room table where she's like, I didn't even do anything. You can't yell at me. That's not fair. Like, I thought it was funny. So I'm ready to see more of her. The vest, I just know every theme park dad out there was like, she gets it. Why we wear the cargo pockets when we go to a theme park. She gets it.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I felt vindicated as a 42-year-old dad that my cargo shorts were redeemed because of this movie. There's so many pockets. How could you hate these shorts? There's so many pockets. They're so cool, right?
Everybody's thinking every guy's going to walk away going, man, Red Guardian, I can relate to that guy. No. It's to her vest. We relate to her character the most in the movie.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we get back into it. We jump to present day, 21 years later, 2016, which puts us right after the events of Civil War. Thunderbolt Ross is going after Natasha because she violated the Sokovia Accords. and Natasha is 50 million steps ahead of this guy. Like it wasn't even close. We get Ross with, I mean, there was speculation throughout this 2-year hiatus with Ross with the cane of, is he taking the serum? Is he going to become the Red Hulk? Is he establishing the Thunderbolts? None of that happened in this film. To Mark's point, it very much fits within the timeline of right after Civil War. The only phase 4 thing in it is establishing the character of Yelena Belova and the post-credit scene. So I'm good with the standalone film. Too little, too late may be an accurate statement. I'm still very glad we got this film, and I've said it that it was my least anticipated just because it wasn't going to advance the story. But I had a whole lot of fun. There was a lot less Thunderbolt Ross than I expected, but Natasha's on the run. She's got her own very handsome, I will say. O.T. Fagbenley plays, I don't even know his character's name, but I really like that guy. He's got a cool accent. He's her supplier. He sets her up with a bad generator, an RV in the middle of nowhere. And I mean, again, we talk about speculation over the last 2 years. Is he tasked?
That's not fair, Brian. That's not fair. That's not fair. He can do a lot more with time and money.
That is true.
According to the credits, his name is just Agent.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
so you didn't miss anything.
All right, he's just undercover. I wonder if he's involved with Shield or Sword or anything. Like Agent is a bit interesting. Mm-hmm. I hope we get him back. Like he seems to maybe have some sort of Agent Carter, Sharon Carter level type maybe introduction. He's not the power broker. Don't worry.
He's Mephisto.
But Natasha's a James Bond fan, just like the rest of us. Natasha,
yes, absolutely.
That was great. But the generator dies. She's driving back into town, and this is where we get our first action of Taskmaster. It scared the crap out of me when that car exploded. I knew it was coming, and it still scared me. But Duane, we got Taskmaster.
Oh my gosh! I jumped.
Can I just one thing real quick, and Duane, it's all you. I really don't want that guy to go on IMDb who needs to post a trivia fact to go, Scarlett Johansson's watching a James Bond movie. Rachel Weisz is married to Daniel Craig, who plays James Bond.
I didn't know she was married to him.
What? You don't need to be that. Well, apparently you do need to be that guy for people like Bryan out there.
Roger Moore, though. It was not Daniel Craig.
No, I know, but I'm just waiting for that IMDb
guys,
trivia.
Quick aside. Ready? Don't overthink it. Best Bond on 3, 2, 1. Brian,
Sean Connery,
Mark,
Pierce Brosnan,
Duane,
Sean Connery,
Roger Moore.
All right,
I'll even give a shout out to Lazenby. I really enjoyed his James Bond.
I grew up with Roger Moore.
I like Roger Moore.
Home team. Yeah, I grew up with him.
I grew up on Pierce Brosnan, but he's still not my personal favorite, but I can understand that completely. Duane, we meet Taskmaster for the very first time. Taskmaster not even going after Natasha.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. But to back up to like you said, I even though we had seen some of that, before, I wasn't really thinking that's where we were. And I mean, I jumped out of my seat when it happened. It was like, now I was in RPX, the sound and everything. I was like, startled. And then as they started fighting, when she realized that the Taskmaster wasn't after her, I thought that was really like interesting. And then it was on from there, which that whole scene, I think really it was almost like they shifted into the next gear and it took off.
I was super happy about this scene. And we did skip over the introduction of Yelena, that we didn't spend a bunch of exposition time within this film of showing you that Yelena was under this mind control and that there was this serum that was going to snap them out of it. They got that done and over with really, really quickly. And I think that was a very smart decision because the visuals of that really just played itself off. They had this just regular briefcase that you could tell right away when it showed up in Natasha's luggage in Norway that it was what it was. But I still didn't expect Taskmaster to necessarily be going after that instead of going after Natasha. That was kind of a cool thing, but showing Taskmaster are they just a robot? Like this better not just be a robot. Like we need somebody to be behind that mask. Mark, what did you think of Taskmaster?
I'm a little sad. I thought Taskmaster. I wish we could have more. And who's to say we won't? But I would have loved to have seen a fight between Taskmaster and Captain America. I know what happens in the comics. Don't come at me, but I'm talking about the MCU. That villain was scary. That was scary. The reveal, I know some people might be mad at it, but I'm not. I was digging that plot twist. I'm good with it. I don't hate it.
Did anybody figure it out while watching the movie?
Right away. Yep.
When they kept bringing up the daughter,
right. That's
I'm
when
like, I was just like, and I was just like, are they going to do it? And then when it happened, I'm like, I'm good with that. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I made the immediate connection with the daughter because I thought it was robotic or part of it was an android or just you could tell that whoever was in there was being physically enhanced by some kind of cybernetic.
Right.
And then when they kept bringing up the daughter and her injuries, I was like, it's the daughter. He's corrupted and turned the daughter into a killing machine, literally.
But that scene on the bridge where they're fighting and then they stop and they're just looking at each other, I'm like, there's nothing happening, and yet this is extremely intense. Like my anxiety is going up right now, and that was great.
Mark Valentine, the introduction of Taskmaster.
To say something that I was clapping and air clapping when he was saying it. If you aren't watching the video that we're dropping on Tuesday, when he said the only regret that I had about Taskmaster was that I wanted more of the character. I'm really excited that a lot of times films will, for the sake of plot, they kill the bad guy. It's nice to see, and again, spoiler alert: Taskmaster does not die. We can get her again, and we can see her in future projects. I'm really excited about the future of Taskmaster, and I'm hoping that she's used in the Thunderbolts or she's used somewhere that we get to see this character move forward. But that scene, that reveal of her was menacing. Like it was probably one of the best drops of a character that we really have gotten. Aside from Thanos, when we really got Thanos for the first time in Infinity War. Up until then, like he's making predictions and whatnot, but we really haven't seen him in combat. That first drop of Thanos was like, damn, this dude is scary.
Yeah.
That was kind of on the same level with Taskmaster. It was like, I don't want to mess with this thing. I don't want to mess with this Taskmaster dude.
The costume, everything was just
great.
Epic.
Great.
Costume was amazing.
So I do want to say, gentlemen, no need for you guys to rub my nose in it that I had said I thought I didn't know how, but I had a very Clint Barton vibe from Taskmaster from just going off of the trailer. I was obviously wrong in thinking that it was Hawkeye somehow corrupted. But then when we got the description of Taskmaster's abilities in the robotic sense, it watches someone else's fighting style, copies and emulates it. I felt a little bit better. That was like, okay, now I don't feel bad that I was like, it's fighting just like Clint, because she was literally fighting like Clint. She had stolen his swagger and was fighting like Hawkeye.
When we meet Taskmaster in that video room, in the trailers, we've seen Taskmaster watching all kinds of things we've seen in the MCU before, most specifically the hallway fight scene of Natasha Romanoff in Iron Man 2. But in the film itself, the only thing we see Taskmaster watching and learning from is Clint versus T'Challa at the airport scene in Captain America Civil War. All it makes me think is, how did they get that footage? But I mean, that is what it is. The actress that plays Antonia Dreykov is Olga Kroilenko, I believe is how it's pronounced. She's best known as Camille in Quantum of Solace, the James Bond film. So another James Bond connection there. But she was the runner-up to Gal Gadot for Wonder Woman. So very capable actress. Really, really cool. I'm with you guys. I hope we get more of her. Obviously, she's not going to be the same without the capabilities of being able to analyze the fight pattern to steal something directly from Friday and in Civil War. But I mean, it really worked for me. Again, I would have loved to have seen more of the character, but she was menacing, man. Like, she was really, really cool. I thought that was really, really well done. Well, the agent, apparently that's his name. O.T. Fagbenley's character is Agent. He tells Natasha that somebody else is living in her flat in Budapest. And so Natasha goes to find out there because she's been sent these antidotes. Where's the antidote, Mr. Jones? But she goes
to what? To the poison
that
you
you
just drank.
The poison you just drank.
That was my menacing laugh. Sorry.
We get
Please turn into United We Fans Indiana Jones Epic Podcast Spectacular Part 1 and 2 if you would like to know more references.
We get, again, and I am not going to hold the marketing for this film against it whatsoever. It got dealt an impossible card of coming out 14 months later than anticipated. They tried to make the most of it. I wish we had gotten it on Premiere Access during the pandemic, but what's done is done. I think Disney's going to actually perform very well on Premiere Access this weekend, and I think they're anticipating about $150 million opening weekend. I think it's going to work out in Marvel Studios' favor.
Did this movie need to be released in theaters to be successful, gentlemen?
Yes.
I'm glad I saw it in a theater.
I think Fast and Furious is proving that theaters are coming back. Or sorry, F9, if you're a keyboard person.
And if that movie can bring back movie theaters, just wait and see what Sean.
It's because it's the family, guys. It's the family.
It is
We're
the
the
family.
family. This is
Family
our
can do
family room right here.
Yeah.
But like I said, not to get on the marketing for this film, but we've seen this fight before of Natasha and Yelena meeting. It establishes very, very quickly that Yelena is a very capable character. And then the widows are coming in because they know that Yelena cut out her tracker. She's no longer part of it. And then they're all of a sudden on the same team, which didn't take very long at all after they call a truce of strangling each other with a curtain. But Mark Valentine, the introduction of Yelena to Natasha here, did that work for you?
Fun fact: a curtain is a deadly weapon when used appropriately. It was awesome. To me, it had a very Bourne.
Yes. I felt like this was the Romanoff identity. Yes.
It had a very Bourne fight sequence vibe to it. Very cool. That's one of the things I love of all of the Jason Bourne films is that fighting style. It's very acrobatic, to the point of where you're wondering how either one of the fighters are physically functioning by the end of the fight. It's like, man, they took some shots. But it was great. Listen, it was great to establish her as a physical specimen in terms of that was her introduction. Like when Happy is toying with Natasha and then she dismantles Happy, very similar to that we're like, okay, we want to establish that Yelena is a specimen. Boom. There you go. She's skilled. So you don't need to question.
I like it.
She's the heir apparent, and here's I present as Exhibit A the apartment fight.
Yeah. The comparison to Bourne is 100% spot on.
Screaming to me in these scenes for sure.
Absolutely, it was spot on.
Well, we get a cool action sequence. Yelena blows the door off of the car, makes the person fall off of the motorcycle.
You're welcome, by the way.
It's a crap plan. But Taskmaster shows up with no regard for whatever is around that tank, like just coming through the entire city. Like I thought that again, that all really worked for me. We get the Clint Barton style bow and arrow coming out of the tank. Again, another shot we've seen in multiple marketing material. But we end up in the subway and we end up in a air vent that Clint and Natasha hung out in for 2 days. I thought that was pretty cool. Marky Mark, anything there?
Mark, I'm glad you brought up the Bourne movies. I was trying to put my finger on like these movies feel very different, and you can tell they're inspired. The motorcycle chase scenes, the type of combat fighting, it's definitely Bourne, which I think are very highly underrated action flicks.
I love
even
those
an,
movies.
I do
even
too.
an
I love it.
underrated stunt show for the theme parks.
So freaking good.
I think it's amazing. That's
Coming,
a fun
So-
show.
coming soon to United We Fan, the Bourne Saga.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes.
But the air vent scene, you see them, like, I just like that it dug more into their relationship. I was sad we won't really get a Black Widow Hawkeye movie. I thought that had a lot of potential, kind of like a
Well,
Mr. and Mrs.
you
Smith,
will. You'll get it. You'll get something Black Widow, just not that Black Widow.
Oh,
It'll series as well.
true. Yeah, but not the same. But yeah, I thought that was fun. They got a rare. I think I laughed, though. I was the only one who laughed when they thought they got away, and then Taskmaster's tank like plows through someone and does like a quick turn and is like there, and it's just like, I'm here, hi, like let me love you, come here, just chasing them. But yes, I agree. The tank had no mercy. If you're in its way, whatever, we're gonna clear that path. And then landing in the subway, I thought was a very cool action scene. It didn't get to the point. It teased it at times, but it didn't get to the point like Fast and Furious is doing, where people are just walking away so easily from things.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It there's 1 or 2 points where I'm like,
No, that was a
we'll
good-
reel it back in.
Dude, you're spot on right now. Yeah, you're spot on. I had that exhale that I was like, how are people walking away from these massive accidents right now without a scratch on them?
I just thought it was a commercial for a BMW and how good the roll cage is.
Oh my
God.
Very nice. You know, it's funny when you were talking about the tank, the Taskmaster was driving. That's the first thing I thought of. I said that is very Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
and I went and saw F9. I know you can slam me later for seeing it, but
maybe Toretto was driving.
I saw it, and just side note, I actually thought it was really funny how they poked fun at themselves in F9.
You have to.
Anyhow, I still thought it was funny, but I definitely see that connection as well.
They're almost self-aware.
Have you seen the TikTok where the guy's like, they're in a spaceship and he's like, I'm going out. He's like, but you can't breathe in space. He's like, you can if you're family. they're just you could do anything if you're family, basically.
Real quick. Sorry. There are way too many family memes on the internet right now. Like the Bernie Sanders memes were good because 95% of them were funny. It's the opposite for me for these family memes. There's some funny ones, but it's just too much for me.
Too much of a good thing right now.
Too much family. Too much.
That is a thing. Well, we go and we learn quickly that Yelena has met Agent before, because he kind of references the apartment and how she ruined it and all that. But Natasha learns quickly that Yelena has no clue where the Red Room is. The Red Room, they are sedated going in and out to protect where its location is. Really easy way to explain why nobody knows where it is. The fact that it's also in the clouds. I don't know how the helicarrier never came across it, but I mean, that's fine. I'm good. I thought that was actually a cool little twist, putting it up in the sky.
Please ignore
the radar, right?
Please ignore the giant floating space station that's in the visible atmosphere.
No, there was a cloud hiding it.
I mean, let's face it, the Red Room is in a gray area, and you could say it's 50 shades of cloaked. So
we learn that Yelena doesn't know where the Red Room is.
Bryan moves on.
They think they know that who does it. Like the fact that they had to bust Alexei Shostakov out of a Russian prison was a lot of fun. And all the stories that he is telling about his fights against Captain America in 1983. And he gets called out by a guy who I swear is a stunt double at the Indiana Jones stunt show at Walt Disney World. He looked just like him from behind. But did you guys notice that after Red Guardian broke his wrist that we got it like flopping around?
Yes.
That was intense.
Steven Seagal like.
Yeah, exactly. But Red Guardian, oh man, he was my favorite part of this movie. He was hilarious. I loved everything about David Harbour's character of Alexei Shostakov. We were talking right before we came on, and I'm going to throw this to Marky Mark, of we get a Red Guardian action figure and how much he loves his own personal theme song.
that scene with the action figure, you just saw how much he's fallen from glory. But I mean, the guy is still very useful. He gives you tips on how to fight off frostbite on your hands. So very practical.
That was awesome too.
All it reminded me of is Friends when he's like, "I suck."
Yeah.
Stage fright.
You know, normally you'd probably be pissed if that happened, but he wasn't. He handled it. Bryan, I know that joke is a number one. I mean, thank God it wasn't a number two. Like, it's my number one joke. So, Bryan, don't hate me. You're into this joke. You're into it. Anyways, so the action figure.
Mark, you're insane.
I know. I'm sorry. Maybe Bryan's not as you're into it as I think. So, okay. So
Wayne is getting peeved.
I know. So I'm going to tinkle on. So here we go.
That one was.
I know. Hey, when you gotta go and make a joke, you know? So him opening his mail and you're seeing him like thinking he's top dog, and then the guards have no respect for him. Like nobody in Russia apparently respects him anymore.
They're eating the treats that was sent to him.
Apparently they needed more butter or something like that. And you see the action figure like, oh, he was something. And you just saw the sadness on his face, and then the head popped off.
His head fell off. And I was actually really sad. And then quickly when you realized, no, it's supposed to fall off. There's an earpiece in it. God, there were so many earpieces in this movie. But the earpiece was in it. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, it's not a broken toy. It's still good. It's a collectible. That's fine.
Red Guardian did not get an earpiece when he deserved one, though.
Are you there? I have to tell you something.
But so we get this breakout scene. We've seen Natasha do the flip in the superhero land many times in that white suit, which that costume is really cool. Yeah. I genuinely thought that the prison breakout is what was going to lead to the free fall scene later on. So the entire time I'm just trying to figure out how is this going to fall from there, and we're going to have this free fall. But we get the avalanche. Everybody's running away, and Alexei thinks he's going to get left at the last minute. But Mark Valentine, this prison breakout, I mean, it was great.
The prison breakout was a lot of fun. It had some humor in it. The funniest moment of which was after she fires the RPG and goes, ha, like kind of like, it's like, you shoot at me, I shoot back. And then that was funny, but then you hear the low rumble and the crackle, and you go, oh my gosh, they've started a massive avalanche. And then everyone starts running, like guard and prisoner start running for their lives. Then I was like, man, this is really up there. This is high up there in terms of the quality that this scene's delivering. Here's the thing that I really enjoyed about the movie, to go back. The action sequences right away, from the plane to the first fight with Taskmaster, there were not a lot of quiet moments. There wasn't a lot of boring moments in this film. Just one action sequence after another. But then the scenes that you got, those quiet character building moments, were really successful in connecting the action of the film. There's a lot of times that the scenes are just like brutal and you're just like, get me on to the next action sequence. I felt like the moments in between really were great. And then when you had these huge set piece moments, it really just took that film to the next level. And again, I love this film. I really wish it had dropped a little bit sooner.
Right after the avalanche starts and she's still flying the helicopter, she's just like staring ahead like she did nothing wrong. It's really funny. He gets on the helicopter and he assumes that they just can't hear him because he's not wearing a headset. So he puts the headset on and goes through the entire apology or whatever he was like, or not an apology, but what should have been an apology. But Duane, just breaking him out of the prison, I would assume you had as much fun as we did.
Oh yeah, it was super. I loved it. The action, I like when she told him, she was like, don't cause a scene. And he's just knocking everybody out, busting doors down. She's like, you caused the scene, didn't you?
But the guards have clearly been tasked on keeping him in prison. The second something happens, Red Guardian's trying to get out. So,
yeah.
Can we just talk about for a second? Marvel does prison escapes very well, gentlemen.
I need that guy's arm.
Very well. And not just this one. It's like if they were Michelangelo, it's like the medium that they dabble in. They're like, let's do another wonderful prison escape.
It reminded me, like, we're talking about this movie took inspirations. It reminded me a little bit, not in a rip-off way, from Mission Impossible 4, when Tom Cruise is escaping from that Russian prison. I love the whole idea of you kind of have to go through like levels as you would a video game. Like, go through one level, break out. Yay, nope, you got another one to go. I like that it's not just... I just got to get through one door. No, that's adorable. You've got to get through several doors.
Yeah.
So
I had shades of the icebox from Deadpool 2. I was just waiting for Juggernaut to show up. That's kind of those were kind of the
I worked under the assumption that the only reason that he hasn't escaped is because of how remote it is. That even if he is to get out, he'll probably just freeze to death.
Right.
I took it as he didn't want to, because inside there he was kind of a celebrity. It's one of the few places where he was still a celebrity.
Yeah, that's true, and he was very proud of that. We learn at the same time. I mean, we knew, but the characters learn that Melina's still alive. They go to Melina's house. She has quite the security setup. She knew they were on the property well before they got to the fence. She could have shot him if she wanted to, but she's training these pigs to do basically whatever she wants to. When she gets that pig to stop breathing, like, that was legitimately concerning. Like, that was scary. And you
don't come back from that.
They built a really good story around how they're psychologically controlling these women in the Red Room, and how Melina's been involved in this and kind of the guilt she feels because of it. But she doesn't know, like, once Yelena comes out and tells Melina, hey, I was one of those people. Like, that's when she flips and is able to be the hero for the rest of the film that she comes out being. Go ahead, Mark.
Guys, what was the Silence of the Lambs movie where the guy is like raising the boars and he calls Hannibal, right? Yeah. He calls, Carlos, put the boars on. Let me hear them. How are the boars?
Is that your Gary Oldman? Is that your Gary Oldman?
How are the boars? That's the vibe I got from that moment. Yeah.
They sound hungry.
They sound hungry.
Wow, Mark, that's pretty good. Wow.
The three women are sitting down for dinner as a family while they listen to the Crimson Dynamo, the Red Guardian, try to squeeze himself into his suit. And as far as he's concerned, it comes out fitting just right. Duane, I know you like this.
Still fits.
Yeah, we've all been there. Duane and I are right. Listen, Duane and I were like, we felt triggered by that sequence.
I have been there all too often. Still fits. It's like
I can still fit a medium t-shirt.
Yeah, or your tuxedo, right? From 10 years ago.
God, thank you. Yes.
But look, that whole scene, actually, when they're sitting at the table and they're having that conversation, and the Red Guardian putting his suit on, that was funny. But then when they all come to the table, and I know you're probably getting ready to get there, but that sequence when they're talking, and we're starting to find out what was real, what wasn't real, the feelings that Yelena had, and you start to kind of really grow that family.
Yelena's the only one willing to admit that it was real to her. Everybody else is like, oh, it was the mission, even though they don't want to admit that they all feel the same way. Yeah, that was really...
I was just worried about the pig. I didn't think that pig had 11 seconds left.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The pig falls right over. Is like,
yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I didn't get caught up in that emotional moment. I was just too distracted and worried about the pig.
So was Black Widow. She was like, okay, enough. I get it.
I thought she was making bacon for a minute, like that. Oh yeah, I do this all the time. Then,
breakfast
pork.
It's what's for dinner.
Sorry, Mark.
So, but they do a very convincing I mean, not easy, but a convincing way of getting Natasha and Melina in one room and getting Alexei and Yelena in the other. And Yelena's very afraid of all the urine jokes that are headed her way. I know how that feels. But Melina,
You're into it, Bryan.
Immediately apologizes, says the Red Room's on the way. And with the amount of ships that they send, there's absolutely no getting out of it. Did anybody anticipate the twist that Natasha was actually posing as Melina?
No, that was awesome. That was a twist.
I had an idea when she opened up the cabinet and I saw the two chameleon face covers there in the corner. I'm like,
oh good.
She's got,
I didn't notice that. Yep.
Yeah.
No,
She had them in the closet there, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna use those. Did I know that that's what it was? No, but I knew they were gonna come into play, so I wasn't quite there yet.
Dreykov put it together before I did. Like Dreykov says, like, I know what it's like to stare in the eyes of my daughter, when I was like, oh okay. Oh, and then that's what he meant. Okay.
I mean, I was proud of
Dreykov-
myself. I caught it when
Yeah.
she was getting him to hit her. I was like, oh, she wants her nose broken so she can't
yeah.
smell anymore. That I caught, but
Yeah.
no.
Did Dreykov what were your
Such a
feelings on
dirty
him?
name.
I don't know. He just
He
did.
looked straight out of the Kingsman.
Yeah, I don't know.
His
Well,
character
how
was
did you feel-
shortchanged.
How did you feel about him as a villain? Again, I think that this is where I was underwhelmed in that I know he's not going to be successful. I know that he's just grandstanding and monologuing, much like a Bond villain. That this is just I found myself in those moments just like, please get done monologuing so we can get to whatever it is that we're going to get
But
to.
that's what Natasha does. She
Yeah.
gets the villains to monologue so she can get the information. That's why we did that reference back to Avengers where she said, thank you for your cooperation.
Yep.
Like,
I like that.
See, for me, he achieved what he was supposed to achieve. He was the misogynistic, and they didn't hit you over the head with this, but he very much saw women as lesser, and he was getting them to do the dirty work because he was weak. For me, his look screamed very Russian to me, which was fine. I actually like that the story that they built around him being just kind of the guy that pulls the string, thinks he's as powerful as anybody when really he can't really do anything. The ring and pulling up everything on the screen, I mean, all that was fine. But having those sleeper cells around, and like you talked about earlier, Mark, we may get more of those sleeper cells in Yelena going around and actually having to do a Born Identity type of deal of trying to break these widows from their mind control.
Yeah.
Or we're just going to gloss over it, and that's where Yelena's been, and that's why she's now going to enter the MCU working for Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. But I'm good either way.
Spoiler alert.
He was very Bond villain type.
yeah.
But I'm happy we didn't spend the entire film of girls are better than or whatever all this time. The sexism within the industry, we've dealt with this for a really long time.
There was a message of empowerment that was in the film, but again, it was well done. It didn't beat you over the head,
Right?
And I loved that aspect of the film. It's great. Like I love these films with a female hero. I like the fact that both of the widows, all of the widows actually were the strongest component of the film.
Yep.
Mark spoke about this when he was talking about, I wanted more Taskmaster and less Bond villain.
Let me ask a question. Since you brought up Taskmaster again, when they're in the Red Room there and they're talking about Taskmaster and the chip that's in her neck and all that, is it possible that we still see the Taskmaster because, yes, she was under mind control, but she has that chip, so she's still, going to be super, right?
No, they'll just reformat her. Like when you get a new iPhone, you just reformat. They'll be fine.
I get it, but my point is she's going to have that power, right? She'll still have that kind of power.
She just got to go find Omega and Wrecker and all those guys in the Bad Batch. They know how to get it removed.
I was creeped out though in the beginning when the one girl like said smile after she put the new chip in her. I was like,
man,
oh.
yeah, that was a creepy moment. Thanks for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
It's like nightmare fuel tonight. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. Sleep tight under your bed.
But Marky Mark referenced it. There's this pheromone, which I mean was fine for me. It was a little bit like you smell him, so therefore can't hurt him. Like
body spray.
I kept a case there. I kept a can in the desk for emergency. But is that
enough for two Tony Stocks?
But I mean, that was okay. She knew it was coming. That's how she got him monologuing, like Mark talked about. But Marky Mark, when we get to that point of her breaking her nose and the widows basically coming to save him, and we get Natasha versus however many of them, that was a great fight scene.
It was great, but a little too easily resolved. I think it went back to, well, we know we can't put her in too much peril because nothing bad seriously is going to happen to her. But one or two resolutions weren't frustratingly easy, but they were like, man, you could have drawn that out. I would have maybe a little longer of a fight scene because I thought it was a pretty epic, like, BA fight scene. But I was good with it as a whole. But just seeing the Black Widows like merge on her and all the different weapons, and then they got her. I think I would have just liked to draw it out just a tad more.
Yeah, Brick killed a guy with a trident.
Yeah, Brick, we didn't mean to talk to you about that. You should probably lay low for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, my
sorry.
Where did that come from?
You know what? Just throw me off for the. I'm sorry to all the fans of the Weirdos. I apologize. For my constant joking. I'm gonna get serious. My bad.
If it makes you feel better, I almost said that scene reminded me a lot of Tough to Be a Bug when Hopper says, "You're over targets, Black Widow spiders, jump!" And then that scene, you just had all the little Black Widows from the mob boss jumping down on her. It screamed very Tough to Be a Bug.
See, now I had the throne room vibes from the last,
from Logan?
The Last Jedi. Yeah, I had throne room
from Last Jedi.
Just with the variety of weapons and
well, it wasn't that anticlimactic with a big build up, so it wasn't like that level of Last Jedi.
Like that. See, we got to get you on Bobley's freaking podcast, man.
No,
we got
to return.
Yeah, it's got to happen.
Duane, did you like this fight scene as much as the rest of us?
Bring us back, Duane.
I did actually. I like the action, and she was doing all right there for a while, and just the numbers got her eventually, and now I understand what Marky Mark's saying. There was one point though where they're holding her, and they're just taking turns. I mean, they are just one right after another, the punch, the kick. I was like, hey, nothing's gonna be ending there, but it's like. Okay, this is kind of getting rough.
That slide kick to the face. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's. I mean, again, the action sequence is really great, really great.
But we get Natasha getting all the list of force sensitive users. I mean the list of Black Widows from around the world, and I mean all that like watching
the knock list. From Mission Impossible, it's a knock list.
Yeah, watching her pop her nose back into place was something I didn't need. Like I didn't need that.
It was badass. It was worth it. I'm good with it.
I like it.
But Yelena is the one that finally is able to finish off killing Dreykov. She says, "Find the body." They don't find the body, but it's pretty confident that dude is gone. The way she did that was cool, shoving that pole into the helicopter jet engine was really cool. But she falls, and this is my biggest complaint out of the film. Like I said, I'm not going to be hard on this film from a marketing standpoint, but they didn't stretch out how long the fall was, a la Fast and the Furious, especially I think it's the fifth one where that 3/4 mile stretch of road lasts for like 26 real miles or whatever. Like gravity pulls you down quickly. And in this film, it pulls them down very quickly. So the free fall scene, I was very much looking forward to it. It was really cool on the Dolby. It's the biggest reason why I'm glad I saw this movie on the big screen. That scene where she turns around, drags down, and Taskmaster comes up from behind her. I really wish I hadn't seen that before I saw this movie.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
I expected there to be more to the free fall scene, but to their credit, it wasn't unrealistically a long drop to the ground.
Props to the cronies who, in the midst of plummeting to their inevitable death, because none of them were outfitted with parachutes, had the wherewithal to keep hands on their rifles and still firing as they plummeted in the final minutes of their lives, said, "My last act on this earth is that I'm going to take this bitch out."
I thought the exact same thing when it was happening. And then Red Guardian has no like control of what he's doing, and he just destroys the ship, or destroys the plane, because he just throws the shield through the windshield. But Duane, the free fall scene.
It was very cool. It reminded me of the Falcon and Winter Soldier scene.
Yeah.
Where we had flying through the helicopter and everything. I thought it was really cool. Very, very neat. The way it was done, the action, just kind of saving her sister. There was a whole lot there for me. And I enjoy it. I was taking it in, just trying to be, like the super fan, just kind of sitting there taking it all in. And to me, that scene was really good.
One more thing that I just want to point out. The kind of the craziness of not just guys falling to their death and like seemingly being okay with it. When that thing hit the ground, I expected a much worse impact and a devastation of the surrounding area. Like we had a it
wasn't that high up.
Yeah, but we had like a Sokovian level catastrophe on our hands with the size of that thing, and it just like kind of
as big.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be a bigger deal when it actually touched down than it was. But I'll tell you what, someone's backyard is going to clean up on aisle 6 for a while. That someone's going to be really mad. I hope they got debris removal on their insurance policy. That's all I'm going to say.
We didn't draw out the fight with Taskmaster much on the ground. We knew Natasha finally learned how to remove the helmet. She does. She breaks her out of it. And Natasha gets to clear the red on her ledger that she's been wanting to do forever. And that's to apologize to Antonia Dreykov. And she didn't think she was ever going to get that chance.
Did we really get an apology though? Because I feel like it should have been a little bit more specific. Not just like, I'm sorry. She should have been like, I'm sorry about your face.
Oh my God.
Like, yeah. It was like, are you really sincere? What are you?
We should never record this late at night ever again.
Yeah, if I were the Taskmaster, I think I would have like gone back and be like, really? Are you really sorry? What are you sorry for, Natasha? What are you sorry for? This?
Bryan, I think he's all jacked up on Josta.
It's that slushy. It's that giant jumbo slushy that you get at the movies.
I can't believe you just said that. I'm so sorry for your face. Oh my God, it looks like a topographical map of the mountains. Looks like Freddy Krueger.
Sorry, yeah, somewhere in the world, Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds is going, it's not that bad. I've seen worse.
Like, I want to make all the Deadpool references, but I can't on this show.
But
again, I apologize.
Everybody
hits the ground alive, so that's good.
Yeah.
Was anyone else maybe a little shortchanged on that fight as well? Red Guardian, who's Super Soldier Serum, who's out of shape, got his butt kicked. We saw that Natasha against the Winter Soldier didn't have the best luck. And Taskmaster, she knows how to fight. Like, I feel like Natasha got the better of her a little quickly. Now, granted, they did just fall from a floating space station.
I feel like if that fight had been protracted, it would not have gone well for Natasha. I think
I agree.
Probably made the smartest tactical decision, knowing that she could not win that fight, which was, I have to get the helmet off and I have to smash this and and close her as quickly as possible. So that didn't bother me. I thought
I'm
the
good with
film.
her doing that. It's just I felt like she got the helmet off quickly, I think is what I was going for.
I think the film. So here would be my only critique. I thought the film then after that point just wrapped up really quickly. In a film that was filled with emotion, it was really drawn out. They had a really great feeling for the tempo of the film. I never once had any problems with the tempo of the film and the flow of the film itself. I felt like it resolved quickly, get to the shot of her in the sun standing with all the stuff behind her, end of film. And then I was like, please do something. Please give me something after credits because I need something better than the way that this film it wrapped up quickly. And I call it the Transformer ending. I love the Transformer films, but it's like
Get that Marc song getting in there.
The Transformer films, you go from like
my face is my warrant.
Yes, a minute and a half earlier, it's like there was this epic thing going on, and then all of a sudden you just get like, cue the music. I am Optimus Prime, and I'm putting out this message to the universe. Like I felt like it was that sort of ending minus an Optimus Prime voiceover that it was just like, okay, film over. Thanks for coming. Enjoy.
I really want to know how she got out of that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob, why did Ross take her in, or how did she get away from him?
Dude, it just wrapped up so quickly, and then it's like we're back and she's flying off in the Quinjet to go break them out of prison.
Because we know they weren't friends. Like when they met up in Infinity War, they're not friends.
No.
So did she just kick all their butts? Like, did she last minute say, bye?
It was just like, okay, we're done. We're not going to write anything else in. Hope you had a good time at the movies. Bye.
Bye.
And then, guys, I mentioned this before, and I said I want to save this to the end. So then I'm in a pretty packed theater. Everyone at that moment, I'm not kidding you, the pulse of the room, everyone was looking around, and you could feel the mood and the vibe was like, that's it? That can't be it. That can't be it. And a dude that was a row up for me was like, please tell me I didn't wait a year and a half for that. Like that's all I'm going to get. And I went, oh, snap. That guy said it. And then the end credit played with Contessa Valentina.
Well,
Bryan.
you had the little scene after that before the mid.
Yeah. But no, after that scene, after she flies off in the Quinjet, she flies off, someone physically said that as we're waiting for the credits.
But that's what I was worried about, is this film was never built up to be the end all be all of any.
I know, Brian, but people expect, I know, but now the problem is with these films, people expect them to be interconnected. We've been so spoiled that we forget what it was like in phase one. We forget standalone films. We've been trained to get out of that mode where everything is connected. There's a big bad that there's always, what's the next thing? Oh, the end credits are going to like blow our minds. There's going to be a drop and so the end credits play and she's at the grave and it goes off. I'm not kidding. And I don't want to say I added to the sentiment. There was an audible groan from the audience of that's it. We waited that long and that's all we get. Like, who cares? And I was like, ooh, man, rough. So
I don't think that's fair at all.
I don't know if it's fair or not, but I'm telling you, that was like a real thing from a lot of people.
That's how it was in my theater. Some people were like, oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah. That does go to what you were saying, Mark, is if it would have played better if it came out between Civil War. But Doctor Strange was not that long ago. Like, we've still had standalone films. We're introducing, granted, she's a character that's been around for a long time, but we're introducing new characters of Shang-Chi, the Eternals, we're getting the Marvels of, that's going to be its own standalone thing. Like, get used to it. Like, we're going to get the wider it gets, especially these Disney Plus series are going to be very standalone.
And I get that. So here's just me dreamcasting, or if let me just pretend.
I'm not yelling at you. I'm not yelling at you.
But let me pretend for a second that I'm going to put on my writer's hat and let me pretend. I've had now an additional year conservatively to look at the position of this film, to look at the things that have happened, to look at the plans of the MCU. They've planned out further. We've had a Captain America and the Winter Soldier, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, now Captain America and the Winter Soldier play out. If I had gone back, I would have enlisted the help of John Walker and U.S. Agent, and I would have introduced him with Val as part of that end scene and just say, we're putting a team together or something. Just that line alone that would have teased a grander role for Black Widow in the MCU, I think would have left people a lot more satisfied with that ending rather than I'm going to send you out to kill Hawkeye, the guy who effectively killed your sister.
I think the existence of Val herself is enough to achieve that. I don't think we need John Walker.
I had a couple of people in the theater go, who's she?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually...
You should have been in the Dolby. All of us got it.
Yeah. Well,
Not those guys.
I actually thought that, and I think we were mentioning it before we went live, that it was actually good to have seen her, in the Falcon and Winter Soldier prior to that. Because it really, to me, made that scene make a whole lot more sense.
Yeah, if this had been a standalone, it would have fallen completely flat to see Val.
I am of the belief that this scene is different than what we would have gotten last May. I think there would have been far more of an introduction of Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. I think because she'd already been introduced, I don't think you put Julia Louis-Dreyfus and one reference of Valentina without explaining anything else. I think that this scene is very different had it appeared last May when it was originally supposed to before the Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think this scene was reshot and changed just a little bit.
I was going to say, but how it played out was she already knew her, so we don't need the backstory of her name and all that. So you're saying but you're saying the original version was her doing the whole John Walker explaining who she is, maybe?
Possible, yeah.
Not necessarily. I just think we get more of an introduction as to who she is rather than just one name drop of Valentina. I think you at least get a full reference of her full name or something. I think this post-credit scene worked really, really well because we've already been introduced to her character and how goofy she is, because her blowing her nose does not have the same effect now or then as it does now. Now it's funny because we kind of have learned her personality through the Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think we may never know this. I think that this scene is different than what would have come out pre.
I think we'll know. I think at some point Kevin will let us all know.
That's just my personal opinion. I think it plays really, really well now. I do not believe it would have played well then.
Yeah. So, guys, we're looking at a 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, an 81% critic score, 96% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, but it's certified fresh, and a 68% on Metacritic, which is pretty low. Pretty low.
Metacritic is always pretty rough.
Yeah, where would you guys say numerically this fell for you, Duane?
Or what kind of scale here? To 100?
Yeah, 1 out of 10. Let's do 1 out of 10.
For me, I would say it's probably about a 9. I really enjoyed it.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, at least 8.5 or 9. I really enjoyed it. I get the holes, where it's, out of place and things like that. I enjoyed the backstory. I enjoy her character, and I also really enjoyed getting to know Yelena leading into. So that that's where I'd be.
Mark, how's this rack up for you?
I give it a 7.5. It's definitely in the top half of the MCU for me.
I'm about there too. It's borderline top 10 in the MCU for me, which this is my second favorite film franchise of all time. And it's more consistent than my favorite film franchise of all time. I would put it borderline top 10. I really, really enjoyed this film more than I expected to. I think 7.5 is pretty darn fair. That audience score of 96% will go down. People will nitpick the crap out of this movie.
I think it would be really fair to give this like an 83 or an 84%. It's gonna age well for me. I will watch this one. It will get a lot of replay for me. I will watch it piggybacking off of Civil War. Again, I don't have a lot bad to say about the film, except I really wish that we had gotten it many years ago. So it just diminished, I guess you could say, the like if I would have anxiety or like again, it lowered the stakes for me that I wasn't on the edge of my seat, so to speak, except for that one scene with Taskmaster where it just literally scared the crap out of me. But it had heart, it had great action sequences. If anything, this effectively passed the baton to the next Black Widow for me. I'm really excited for Florence Pugh. I think that she is going to knock it out of the park. And I love Scarlett Jo. I love her. She is a national treasure. I wish her well. I thank her for her time in the MCU. Thank you for your time as Black Widow. And we will, like, she's going to be missed. But this film is, for me, it's a B-.
So wait, what number are you giving it, Mark?
84.
84. Oh, on a scale of 1 to 10.
Oh. On a scale of 1 to 10, 8.2.
Oh.
It dropped a little bit. He's a teacher at heart. You got to remember that. It's all letter grades. It's all letter grades.
It's all letter grades, man. Yeah.
Gentlemen, it has been 727 days since the last time we had an opening night in the MCU. That was so much fun. And we've got Monday night coming up to discuss episode 5 of Loki, which was absolutely incredible. We have the series finale of Loki coming next Wednesday. We just got announced today, Marvel Studios What If, coming August 11th. And holy crap, that looks like
I am fired up for What If. Oh my goodness, I'm fired up.
There is an alligator Loki Funko Pop that has dropped. There is so many good things happening in the MCU, but gentlemen, it was so great to return to the movies to see Marvel Studios. We get to do it again in about 9 weeks for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Let's do it.
For Earth's Mightiest Weirdos and United We Fan and This Life podcast, thank you so much for joining us in the Red Room.